We are absolutely thrilled to host today's speaker. As I'm sure you all know, he's a leader in research, education, and promotion of natural organic gardening, hosts a weekly radio show, broadcast nationally in over 200 markets, including locally on 660 AM. He's the author of over a dozen books on best gardening practices, and we are really, truly honored to have him here today. Please welcome the Dirt Doctor himself, Howard Berry.
Thank you, Tyler. Welcome, everybody. This is going to be fun tonight. And as I have told Tyler, this might be the first of 3 that we do. We're at least talking about it. We're going to go through the basic organic program tonight. I talk about the basic organic program kind of in 3 steps. It's the basic program, it's the detox program that a lot of people need when they're buying a new place, or they don't know what's been used before, or they do know what's been used before and they need to clean it up. And then the 3rd step is the sick tree treatment. I can't do a talk without talking about trees. So we'll talk about trees to a degree, but the other 2 talks that I do will be specifically on trees, and then the 3rd one will be on natural organic pest control. We'll cover all of those things to a degree tonight, but it's going to be the basic information first. So I know that some of you from talking to you are already into this organic world and some aren't, but I'll try to get everybody on board tonight. The first thing we're going to talk about is the fact that the most important thing to do is to stop doing the things that are bad to do. Stop doing stuff that hurts. And I always want to start the talk by letting you know how to get more information about this thing that we talk about. And this is the best place right here, the website, dirtdoctor.com. This is the home page. And right on the home page, you'll find a lot of basic stuff. This area right here talks about everything that we have edited on the website and everything that's new on the website. We keep something called the Fabulous Tree Slideshow there all the time. And for those of you that haven't seen it yet, just take some time, sit down and watch it. It's 100 and something slides showing how I recommend planting trees, how to maintain trees, how to do the sick tree treatment. It covers some of the most fabulous trees in the world, including some in my own garden, my famous ginkgo, Nellie, my pit bull mix's climbing tree, and a lot of other trees. The national champion pecan tree that's in Weatherford, Texas is covered, and all that kind of thing. So right here you can find all of the information about my online classes, my art, which I'll show you a little bit about, and my books. And then down here there's also a whole lot of things listed below the line there, and the one that says guides, all in capital letters, that's where you'll find all the recipes that I recommend, all the basic programs that I recommend, and just all the general basic stuff. So that's the first place where you can find a lot of information. The second place is to tune into my show every weekend on 660, as Tyler said, on K-Sky, and I'm on from 8 to 11, and we also have podcasts, so you can listen anytime you want to while you're working in the garden or while you're driving, and we also have a Dirt Doctor app, so you can listen 24/7 there. You can't get away from me, really. So anyway, a lot of places where you can learn more. This is where I've learned a lot. This is my house in the Lakewood area. It's what it looked like about 15 years ago, I guess. I don't have a shot in here of what it looks like now, but I'll show you the backyard. The front yard is solid ground cover. I don't have any grass yet, because my design philosophy was that I was going to plant too many trees, and then I was going to remove certain trees as the ones I liked the most grew. My wife didn't buy into that philosophy, and I didn't get to cut any of them down. So It's all ground cover because it's all shady now. The backyard is as well, but it shows you that one of the misconceptions about organics is it can't look really good. It's got to be kind of messy and wild. You can have as formal a garden as you want. You can have any kind of garden you want with the natural organic program. By the way, that's one of the famous trees right there, the crooked live oak. That's Nellie's climbing tree. And you'll see when you look at the fabulous tree slideshow that she climbs up above where that photograph cuts off. She really climbs it, going after birds and squirrels. Now, you can't do an organic garden on a formal basis, right? This is one of the most formal gardens in the country. This is Ima Hogg's old estate in Houston called Bayou Bend. It's about 10 acres and it's 100% organic. I had a hand in it because I spoke to the River Oaks Garden Club a couple of times and they liked what I had to say and asked me if we could do Bayou Bend organic. I said, sure. We do much larger projects organic. We've done parks, we've done corporate headquarters, 300 acres, we've done golf courses. You can do any size project organic. They said, fine, we're going to do it. At that time, I didn't know, but they own the place. So they ordered the curator to go organic the next day. He said, no, you're not going to do that. This is way too famous a garden and important a garden for you to risk it going organic, you know. It might work for Howard Garrett, who does it, you know, sitting on his compost pile under his pyramid, smoking marijuana. But it's not going to work on a serious scale. And they said, well, if you want your job, we're going organic tomorrow. And by the way, that's one thing I've found throughout my career. The only time I get people to go totally organic is when the boss of the project pulls the trigger and orders it to be done. That's the only time I've ever been able to get it done. When you try to phase it in, do it a little bit at a time, doesn't work. There's too many ways that people can bring the synthetic fertilizer back to the site and do something that screws up the whole deal. So it has to be a cold turkey deal to work properly. And you can do it on landscaping, you can do it in orchards, you can do it in vegetable gardens. And the reason that I say the most important thing to do is to stop doing things wrong is that if you do things wrong, you're going to hurt things like that in your garden. And you'll see that right now if you look around in your garden. It can be on leaves, stems, your front door, literally. Those are the eggs of the green lacewing. And it's a little insect, beautiful little green insect, about a ½ inch long. Those are the eggs it lays. The little larvae are little tiny alligator-looking things, and they eat all kind of beneficial harmful insects, not beneficial insects. They're the beneficials. But if you spray anything, even an organic spray that kills, like orange oil or neem or spinosad, all the things I recommend when you need to use them, but if you spray those things indiscriminately, you're going to kill a lot of helpful things in the garden. So you want to do that last, and I'll show you how that whole process works. This is one of the shots you need to remember the most because that's what we want to accomplish. We want to have the roots of our plants look like this. Now that's not root system. The root system's right here. That brown and those little nodules, that's the root system. This is a pine tree in a growth chamber. It's 1 year old. This is mycorrhizal fungus or mycorrhizae. And that will happen on all your plants with a very few exceptions if you just go organic. If you just stop using harmful things, synthetic fertilizers and pesticides, and use compost and mulch and nothing else, you don't do anything but that, your plants will develop mycorrhizal fungus. It's nature's way of growing plants so that they're growing and being very powerful. This is where you get much better water take-up, much better nutrient bioavailability from the soil, and it's where you get the power of the plant to resist pests of all kinds, insects and diseases. So that's where we want to get to. Now we can speed all this up by doing this. Number one, stop using the bad things. And it's in two categories, synthetic fertilizers and the toxic pesticides. The worst fertilizers are the weed and feed fertilizers. It's one of the things that even the chemical guys and I agree on. Weed and feed chemical fertilizers should not be on the market. They should be outlawed. They're horrible in every way. Never should be considered. The pesticides, and by the way, the second worst fertilizers are still recommended by A&M and other universities, including Texas Tech, where I went, and that's the high nitrogen synthetic fertilizers and the nitrogen only fertilizers. They're almost as bad as the weed and feed fertilizers. That's the worst weed and feed fertilizer in the world, Scott's Bonus S, and it's the worst because it contains a pesticide called atrazine, and it'll kill your shrubs and trees. And it says so on the label. But nobody reads the label, right? So we want to stop using all that. On toxic pesticides, this is the one I hate the most, Roundup. And a lot of people think Roundup is safe. They hear the people that promote it and sell it say that it goes away when it hits the soil and it can't hurt animals and all that. None of that's true. I'm not going to go into the details tonight. It'll take too much time. But if you want the details on what Roundup, glyphosate, the chemical in it, does, go to our other website, which is the Texas Organic Research Center.org, and we've got white papers and research explaining it all to you. Basically, it doesn't go away, and it does hurt something inside you and your pets and the livestock and the wildlife, and that's the gut life in your gut. That's what it hurts the most. Number two, so we stop doing all that bad stuff. We start doing just the opposite. We start using things that build the life in the soil. And we do that primarily with compost and organic fertilizers. And we do it, secondly, and just as important as compost, rock minerals. This is where, if you're not doing an organic program yet, you're really missing the boat, because the rock minerals are just as important. They're the yin and the yang. The compost and the rock minerals are the yin and the yang of the organic program. They work hand in glove. They're completely different, but the rock minerals that I recommend are lava sand and azomite. Those are the two best. But any rock mineral, granite sand, iron ore rock, the soft rock phosphates, a lot of the things that you'll find at various garden centers are fine. It's just that azomite and lava sand work better than anything, and they're available here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Okay? And then the third step is what we do to push it, make it go faster. If we just did the compost and rock minerals, you'd have fine production, you'd have good success in growing vegetables and fruit and landscaping, interior plants, turf, you name it. But if you add a couple of things as microbe stimulators, you're going to get to production quicker. I learned early on when I converted Johnson & Johnson Medical and Frito-Lay and a golf course, Tierra Verde in Arlington, over to an organic program. I helped the superintendent there do it. We had to stay with the same budget, and we had to stay with the same timing that they were already using. You know, we couldn't spend more money. You'll hear people say organic doesn't work very well because it costs too much money. Well, we've had to keep it the same price and the same timing, and this is what we do it with. Dry molasses, one of the most important things that I recommend for switching over, changing an existing landscape, or building new beds. And the second one is whole ground cornmeal. Dry molasses stimulates biological activity and just moves everything quicker. The cornmeal is a natural disease fighter, and you'll pretty much eliminate all your disease problems by using whole ground cornmeal. And it's available in the nurseries if you haven't gotten into it yet, and the feed stores. Now, that's the organic program. That's the basic organic program right there. Stop using the bad stuff. Do the things that move you in the right direction. Speed it up with the microbe stimulators. And then if you do all that, you'll have very few insect and diseases. The pressure will be very low. But when you have any stress in your plants, which we're all going to be dealing with, if the weather's crazy, which guess what, the last 3 winters have done to us in that regard. And if you're planting something that's not perfectly well adapted to flower mound, you're going to have stress in the plants. Well, I got news for you. There ain't no tomatoes native to flower mound. So we're always planting things that are going to have a little bit of stress issues. So you're going to have some aphids and you're going to have some scale maybe hit here and there. But under the organic program, it's going to be minimal. It's going to be minor. If it's not minor, you're doing something wrong. And we can talk about what you do in that case. But anyway, if we have those pest problems pop up, this is what I call soft pest control. First of all, living organisms. I recommend to every gardener, every homeowner, every contractor that's in this business to put out beneficial nematodes and trichogramma wasp in the spring. You can still do it now. It would have been better for you to have done it when the plants first leaf out, but you can still do it now. Trichogramma wasps control the caterpillars that come from moths. And that means tent caterpillars, webworms, armyworms, any kind of caterpillars, the tomato hornworms, sod webworms, any kind of caterpillars. Some people are afraid that it'll hurt butterflies, but we don't see evidence of that. There may be a little bit of effect, but we don't see any. I don't see any effect at all in my gardens. I think it's because the butterflies have bigger eggs and it's hard for the trichogramma wasps to parasitize them. What you're looking at there is about 3,000 moth eggs. That's what you buy. It's a little 1-inch square, or it comes on strips. And you simply stick that pin into a tree or a fence post or whatever. The only way it doesn't work is if you have fire ants. And the fire ants will eat those eggs before they hatch, and the little trichogramma wasp, female, comes out, flies off, finds the moth egg, lands on it, and parasitizes and kills it so it doesn't become a worm to eat your plants. That's how it works. So how do you control fire ants? The organic program is the only way to control fire ants truly. And we stumbled into the best solution, and that is when you have fire ants, a bunch of mounds or just a few fire ants on your property, put out dry molasses, what I've already talked about. Get it from the stores, 40, 50-pound bag. If you have a small place, you can buy it in 20-pound bags. Put it out at 20 pounds per 1,000 square feet, or 2 pounds per 100 square feet. Same rate we recommend putting it out when you're preparing your beds or just transitioning over to an organic program. The dry molasses sets up a bacterial action in the soil that repels the fire ants, and they just leave. They go to somebody else's property. Now, when all of you do it, I don't know where they're going to go. So, but for now, the organic gardeners have a great advantage because they'll go away. The second thing of the living organisms is beneficial nematodes. Microscopic worms. You buy them from insectaries. One of the things we have on our website that I was showing you on dirtdoctor.com, we have a list of the insectaries that we recommend that we know something about. None of them are advertisers, but we know some of them well enough to give you their names, and you can order them mail order. Some of the retail stores will have them in stock. You put them out according to their label directions, and they will control any pest that has one of its life cycles in the ground. Well, guess what? That's almost every pest. But they are specifically great to control fleas and ticks and grub worms and termites and the things that many of you deal with on a regular basis. Very inexpensive. Trichogramma wasps are even less expensive, but they're both great. Okay, that's our step one. Now, if we still have pests on our plants, if we have some aphids eating on the roses or on one of the vegetable garden plants or whatever, and you start to think, well, I gotta go spray something. Should I spray an insecticidal soap or some spinosad or orange oil? Well, the first thing you need to do is look at the plants really carefully. Look at the back of the leaves. You may see some larvae of green lacewings, ladybugs, something like that. And if you see those beneficials on your plants that have pests where you're thinking about spraying, back up and don't spray. Let those beneficials take care of it for you, and they will in a lot of cases. If they don't, we spray things that don't kill. Repellents, garlic oil sprays, or garlic pepper tea. Unfortunately, there are no commercial garlic pepper tea products on the market, so you have to make your own, but the formula is on my website where I was telling you under guides on my homepage. And then the last step, if you've got to kill something, if you have some spotted cucumber beetles or some stink bugs or something, that's doing some damage still on your plants after doing all this stuff, you can spray the killing organic tools. Spinosad soap is probably the most powerful thing you can buy today, and it's in all the stores out there, easy to find. Orange oil at 2 ounces per gallon. All those things are organic, fit my program, and will kill, but use them as a last resort, okay? Because you're going to kill beneficials if you rush it. We've already talked about that. Just remember that all of the weed and feed, chemical weed and feed fertilizers, you want to stay away from. Another thing, stay away from, this often gets some jaws dropping. I don't recommend peat moss at all. Peat moss is antimicrobial. We don't want antimicrobial. We want things to rot. We want decay. We want biological activity. Peat moss is good for preserving things. Dead bodies have been found in peat moss bogs that are quite old that look pretty good. That's not what we want. Plus, it's too expensive, and there's other issues as well. The only reason I ever recommend peat moss, and this is a pretty good way to use it, store your potatoes and bulbs that you're trying to save over winter or something like that in dry peat moss. It's great because it won't let them rot. And that's exactly why we don't like it. What we want is compost, living, healthy compost. That's the best tool of the organic program. You can make it yourself or buy it commercially. And then the rock minerals and the sugars, these are the two that I mentioned. This is lava sand. A lot of you have probably already used it. And it comes from volcanoes. It has gone through this tremendous heat of the volcano, is one of the reasons why it's so powerful. It has this paramagnetism force to it. But even if it's not very high quality lava sand, it's still beneficial because it'll hold moisture for you at just the right level for longer than anything, including compost. But it works beautifully with compost. And then that's what dry molasses looks like. It's not actually dry molasses, it's actually liquid molasses sprayed onto little bits of soy or peanut hulls or some kind of organic matter. So you get some protein and some carbon both in the material, and that's why it works so well. The other rock mineral that I recommend highly, I was talking to some people before we started, this is getting more rave reviews than anything I've recommended in a long time, and it's a commercial product, as you can see, called azomite. It is a volcanic material also. It's from volcanic ash, and natural material dug out of the ground, comes in a granular form or a powdered form. Either one works. The powdered forms of anything that I recommend, the corn products or the rock minerals, the powdered form is always a little bit more effective because you have more surface area. Just works a little more quickly and completely. But on a windy day, it makes a mess, blows all over the place. So the granular is easier to use, easier to spread, but doesn't work quite as well. Both of them work well though. That's whole ground cornmeal. Put it out. It's used as part of the sick tree treatment. It's part of the basic organic program. If you're going to plant a new bed, the bed preparation is the stuff that I was talking about there. Compost, rock minerals, and the microbe stimulators, and the whole ground cornmeal is one of those. Whether you're planting new annuals or perennials, or you're planting a vegetable garden, or whatever you're planting, it's these exact same materials for all of those crops. Even if you have existing crops and you just want to convert everything to organics, you throw this same exact material right on the surface of the ground, right around the plants. You can scratch it into the soil a little bit, it's best, but you don't even have to do that. Now, the other thing cornmeal will do for you is if you have any kind of disease problems at all, up to and including fire blight on your pears and roses and things like that, the organic program is the way to eliminate it. This is damping off disease. These are lavender plants. Any of you that have grown any kind of plant from seed, you've probably experienced this before. The plants just start fading away like that and it moves pretty fast. It's not one pathogen, it's usually a mixture of several different pathogens. And you know, the chemical people will tell you to spray Daconil and Balaton and all kind of toxic stuff that's just dangerous as it can be. Plus, they don't work. And the reason they don't work is that they kill the beneficials more effectively than they kill the pathogen that you're after, right? So what we want to do is use cornmeal. You just dust cornmeal on your little seedlings as they're coming up. You'll never have that. Never have it. If you want to do a liquid version of it, take a handful of cornmeal, put it in a 5-gallon bucket, throw it in the bucket, stir it up, let it sit for 30 minutes or an hour, strain the solids out, throw the solids in a bed somewhere or in the compost pile, spray the cornmeal juice on the little seedlings. You'll never have damping off. Even if the damping off has started, it'll shut it down. And the way it does it, it doesn't kill anything. It sets up, it stimulates, it has in the cornmeal, but it also stimulates in the soil a beneficial fungus called trichoderma. And trichoderma overrides the rhizoctonia, the other pathogens that you're having a problem with. The other thing you can do that's quicker, but you only can do it one time, is spray hydrogen peroxide. Hydrogen peroxide will kill the fungus completely. It'll kill bacteria completely, just like it does on your finger when you cut your finger. But do it only one time. If you do it more than one time, you're going to kill beneficials. So you can use cornmeal as often as you need to. Don't waste your money or time doing it very often, but with hydrogen peroxide, you only do it once. It's the best tool, though, if you have fire blight on your orchard trees or roses or something like that, and you can spray the fire blight any time of the year, and the hydrogen peroxide will cure the problem. It used to be that I recommended streptomycin. The chemical people still do. That's a bad thing to do. The organic fertilizers are part of this basic program, the compost, rock minerals, and the stimulators. The compost is in that first category with the organic fertilizers are in the first step with the compost. We're lucky in Texas, we have a whole bunch of good choices. This is one of them, Medina's Growing Green. They've got a new product now that doesn't have manure. This one is a chicken manure-based product. The other one is all organic ingredients, doesn't have manure, and it's good. Either one of them are fine. The other good ones are Maestro Grow, Nature's Creation. There's several. The corn gluten meal is in this category. corn gluten meal is not whole ground cornmeal. It's just the protein part of corn. It comes about when they are doing the manufacturing of high fructose corn syrup, which is one of the worst foods on the planet, that you shouldn't be eating, but it's ubiquitous. It's in all kinds of fast foods and everything. But anyway, it's kicked off when they're making the high fructose corn syrup and some other corn products. It's real high in protein, so it's real high in nitrogen for an organic product. And you put it out just like any other organic fertilizer. And if you do it in February and in September, it'll give you pre-emergent weed control. But you've got to do it before the weed seed germinates. Same as with using a chemical, weed and feed. You got to have the timing right, but it doesn't cause any problems like the chemical stuff does. But anyway, the organic fertilizers go out when you first start 3 times a year. Early spring, and by early spring I mean January, February, March, and then early summer, June, and then in the fall, sometimes September, October. That's as many times as you ever need to fertilize with organic fertilizer. And after you've been organic for a while, you can cut down to 2 fertilizer applications a year, or even 1, and still have really good production, because the life in the soil keeps on going and you don't have to keep putting out organic fertilizer as much as you do the chemicals. Now the detox program, which is the second step of the basic organic program, that's what you use if you just bought a new house, or if the chemical lawn care company sprayed the wrong property, which by the way happens a lot. I get a lot of calls about it. And if you know that's happened, you use the detox program to lock up the chemicals and start the process of those chemicals breaking down. It's the basic program amendments, same stuff, with one very important addition. And the addition is a fine textured humate, which you can buy and mix in water and spray out on the property. It's a little harder to find. The easiest way to do it is to buy the commercial version of Garrett juice. That's the Medina product, Medina Plus Garrett juice. It has a fine textured humate as the main ingredient in it instead of compost tea. My usual recipe for Garrett juice is compost tea, vinegar, molasses, and seaweed. The commercial version, instead of compost tea, has this very fine textured humate in liquid form, and you don't have to mess with mixing it if you don't want to. So you just spray it and drench it real heavily. It instantly ties up the chemicals if you've had contamination, and it doesn't get rid of them. They're still there. They're just held on to by the humates. And then the biological activity that's created by all the other ingredients breaks down those big molecules over a period of time. And so that's the simple step from basic organic program to the detox program. Now, if you also add to the detox spraying a little bit of orange oil, 1 to 2 ounces per gallon of spray, that helps, that speeds up the biological activity. Even though it'll kill insects, it's actually good for microbes in the soil if you use it at that low level. But the Garrett Juice Plus has that fine textured humate in it. And it is part of the basic program, by the way. It's the last step of the basic organic program. It's part of the detox program, and it's also part of the sick tree treatment. The sick tree treatment is the basic organic program with one very special addition, and that is to pull the soil away from the base of the tree. No matter what kind of tree it is, orchard tree, landscape tree, tree in a pot, citrus, any kind of tree needs to have a flare showing. Most trees that come from nurseries don't have a flare. They're too deep in the ground. And so the sick tree treatment is the main thing that we recommend. If you have mistletoe in your trees, if you have sapsuckers poking holes in the trunk of your tree, if you have galls all through the tree, if you have oak wilt, the solution, and it works as a curative as well as a preventative, is the sick tree treatment. And the Garrett juice sprayed on the tree and the trunk and the ground plane and the dog as he's walking by and everything is what you do. And actually, you don't want to spray the dog, but if you do, it won't hurt them. That's another nice thing about the organic program. Another final step of the basic organic program, and this fits into the compost section of the basic program, and it would also fit into the detox and the sick tree treatment if you had some bare soil, but it's to put the mulch over the bare soil. Now, there's good mulches and bad mulches. And the mulches you want to stay away from are the ones that unfortunately are out there and used a lot. The one that's used the most is pine bark, and it's not a very good mulch. Cypress is used a lot. It's not a very good mulch. Rubber is used some, and it's a horrible mulch. You don't want to ever even consider it. One that's dangerous for dogs is the cocoa mulch. It comes from Hershey's. Very dangerous for dogs. So you don't want to use that. The one you want to use is shredded native tree trimmings. And the best native shredded tree trimmings of all is our ubiquitous cedars that everybody hates. Ground up native cedars make the best mulch of any. It smells wonderful. It repels insects. It breaks down beautifully, which we want to happen. And it locks in place because it's shredded material, nature, and it's just terrific. It's by far the best. A little trick for you on how to make compost the easiest way. This is something you don't want to forget, because if you see a tree care company working trimming trees near your house, you go and stop and say, hey, where are you going to dump that stuff that you're grinding up? And they say, well, we normally take it to the landfill. And you say, no, you don't. You take it to my house, which is down at this address, and you dump it in my front yard. And you want to get all you can get, especially if you have a big property. Those of you that have ranches and farms want as much as you can possibly get. This is a farm in McKinney, a friend of mine, that showed me this little story. I knew about it, but he gave me this photograph, which was great. This was the fresh tree trimmings from a new road intersection where they'd cut down a bunch of trees, just ground up hackberries and elms and oaks and all kinds of stuff. And that's what you want. You want any kind of ground up tree of any kind, doesn't matter what kind of tree it is, if there's a mixture. The only one you want to be a little bit careful with if you're a vegetable gardener is walnuts. If you did only walnut, ground up an entire walnut tree, and the mulch is 100% walnut, and you put it in your vegetable garden. Walnut has a natural chemical called juglands, and it will actually hurt nightshades, peppers and tomatoes and eggplant and tobacco. But if it's mixed with other things, other trees, it's not a problem. So you only worry about it if it's solid walnut. But anyway, this was a new fresh pile. That beautiful compost right there was this pile a year earlier. They turned it once. It'll make perfect compost, even if you don't turn it. The only thing, if you don't turn it, the outside edge will stay, uncomposted, which is fine. It's still useful as a top dressing mulch. But if you turn it once, the whole pile becomes prettiest compost you can possibly have. The reason it's so good, when you trim a tree that's alive, that tree has carbon and protein in it. The carbon is the cellulose, the wood and all that. The protein is the cambium layer and the buds and the green tissue, stems and all that. And so that mixture of the green and brown, that carbon and nitrogen mixture in shredded tree trimmings is perfect. And that's why in a pile, it just breaks down into beautiful compost for you. Cheapest way to make the best quality compost there is. And the shredded tree trimming should be used, for walkways. Best walkway in your vegetable garden. It's best for mulch. The only thing you don't want to do with it or any other mulch is ever pile it up onto the stems of the plants, the stems of the trees. The only plant that can stand to be buried in the soil or in the mulch a little bit is tomatoes, because tomatoes grow adventitious roots out, and that's why, people talk about planting them real deep or laying them down. You can get away with it with tomatoes because they grow those adventitious roots, but other plants don't do that. So it's the only one. This is one thing you never want to do. Any of you have fruit trees, you never want to have bare soil under your fruit trees. You want to have covered with the mulch, the shredded native tree trimmings, except right at the base of the tree. Even when you're mulching an orchard, when the mulch comes up close to the stem, you want it to dive down and leave the base at the tree completely untouched by the mulch. Very, very important. And then the other thing you can do with mulch, if you're adding on to your house or doing remodeling or doing a new house, or doing any construction of any kind, cover the site with the same shredded tree trimmings and have the contractors drive and work on that shredded mulch. And one, it won't ruin not only won't ruin the soil, it'll make the soil better during the construction, and it keeps the contractors out of the mud. They actually, once you force them to do it, they won't want to do it because it sounds different than anything that they normally do. But if you make them do it, they'll like it because they don't have to work in mud on the project. Now you can use lava gravel as a mulch. It's actually a pretty good mulch. Not the sand, but the gravel, 1 inch, 1.5 inch stuff, red or black, makes a good mulch. You, again, don't want to put it up on the flare. There's a good thing and a bad thing showing here. That flare is pretty good. You could have it exposed even a little more than that. That's really bad. You never want to use plastic of any kind under any mulch. Not weed blocking fabric, not solid plastic, not any kind of plastic. It fouls up the most important part of the soil, the surface of the soil just under the mulch. That's where everything should be perfect. Biological activity, the temperature, the pH, we don't worry about much. It just goes to the right point naturally for us with the organic program. It's also why we don't worry about NPK on the fertilizer bags too much. We're not concerned about the chemistry. We're concerned about stimulating the life in the soil, the biological activity. So lava, I've seen some great looking landscape projects with lava gravel. The only negative about it, slight negative, is it doesn't break down and become humus like the shredded tree trimmings do. People ask, okay, smart guy, if you don't recommend Roundup, what do you recommend? Well, I recommend this. I recommend 20% vinegar, and you spray the tree base. This is a little famous tree at our office, a lacy oak. But that's sprayed with 20% vinegar. And the neat thing about it is it'll kill the weeds, it'll kill the grasses, and you can spray right on the trunk of the tree, and it won't hurt. It'll even kill suckers that you might be having and won't hurt the tree at all like the chemical herbicides do. 20% vinegar is available in several different brand names in the stores out there and easy to find. One of them is the Nature's Creation. They're registered as organic weed control under the FIFRA exemption deal. The one company did it, and then about 6 more just followed the lead. But you can kill any kind of weed with it, including Dallas grass and Bermuda grass and nutsedge and everything else. Now, you'll sometimes have to spray more than once, but you sometimes have to spray more than once with the chemical, with the poison stuff. Now, real important tip for you. You want the vinegar to work even better? Add 1 ounce of liquid molasses to it, a jigger of liquid molasses per gallon of the 20% spray, and it'll kill quicker and it'll kill more thoroughly. It works really well. Like I said, if you want to get rid of mistletoe, you can literally do this. If you have a tree that looks like that, you can go out tomorrow and expose the base, expose the flare, apply the sick tree treatment, which is all the organic amendments that I went through that we use for bed preparation, compost, rock minerals, and sugars, and spray Garrett juice everywhere. And the mistletoe will turn brown and dry up and die. You will not have it the next year. It works just perfectly. Now, this was on a tree in our front yard. I let get in trouble because I hadn't exposed the flare myself on my own tree too much, but it made a perfect thing for us to show. In fact, it's on dirtdoctor.com, right on the homepage. If you go down to the bottom, there's a video there, and it's me doing the sick tree treatment to this tree after it got these galls on it. These are woolly oak galls, and you get it when the flare is not as exposed as much as it should be. And if you have a tree that's got a real heavy infestation of galls on it, a few's fine, but a heavy infestation is not good. It's a sign that the tree's in stress, and if you do the sick tree treatment, the galls will go away. This is part of the video. That's me actually doing it. You can see, even though I have to admit, I planted it myself and I thought, well, I had a flare showing. That ain't a flare. You see what I'm exposing there? I took off 8 more inches of soil on my own tree to get those galls to go away. You see what I exposed on my own tree. So it happens to everybody. I've had to expose most of my own trees. It's not anything to be embarrassed about. It is if you don't do anything about it, but it's very common. And the reason it's so common is that the trees are too deep at the growers. They come to the nurseries too deep in the containers, whether they're in pots or in balled and burlap. And then the contractor or the homeowner plants them thinking they've planted them at the right depth, and they settle a little, and lo and behold, you've got them way too deep in the ground. And the only thing you can do to get the plant healthy is to get it exposed. That's the same tree I showed you a minute ago. Let me go back. That's the same tree as that, the very first next growing season. No galls on the plant. Powdery mildew on crepe myrtles, scale on crepe myrtles, a white scale, totally eliminated with the sick tree treatment. Getting that flare exposed, you can spray with Garrett juice with a little orange oil, a little spinosad soap to kill the scale that's on the plant if you want to do that to speed up the process. But what keeps the scale from coming back and giving you that black sooty mold along with it is the sick tree treatment, exposing the base of the tree. Peach leaf curl, you get rid of it with the sick tree treatment. It's all you got to do. We had this past year. I designed Japanese maples into a commercial project in Dallas, a whole bunch of them. And 2 days after we had planted these little Japanese maples, squirrels came in and ate the bark off of all the trees so bad it was unbelievable. And I thought, oh my God, and it was because they were in stress. You know, they were too deep, even though the contractor did a pretty good job of planting them at the right height. This is where I came up with the now latest version of something that's very important for you to remember. It's called the tree trunk goop. And the tree trunk goop is a coating that you put on a plant instead of wrapping it with gauze or tape that some people unfortunately still recommend. And this is used for any kind of damage to the bark of a plant, the tree trunk goop. And I've gone through 3 different iterations, but the latest and best version of it is equal mixtures of azomite, that product I mentioned to you a minute ago, and compost, and a product called kaolin clay. And the kaolin clay is sold commercially as Surround. It's hard to find, but you can find it. You can also go to the hobby stores and buy clay that's used for throwing pots. It's the same stuff. Mix it equal amounts, kaolin clay, azomite, compost, water, messy, muddy mess, slather it all on the damaged area, and it was unbelievable how fast the bark of these little trees calloused and grew back over and now have no squirrel damage. That is the commercial product, Surround WP. WP stands for wettable powders, what that stands for, but it's nothing but 100% kale and clay. That's all that is. We're trying to get it on the market in smaller containers so it's easier for homeowners to get it. This is a story. This is one of the stories in this Fabulous Tree slideshow that I mentioned to you that's on dirtdoctor.com that you can look at the slides. This is a little tree I bought and myself and planted, and I brought it home. It was in a 7-gallon bucket. And I pulled it out of the bucket and I found this. It was balled and burlapped and stuck in a 7-gallon bucket, and it had bark all the way up to this level here. So I pulled it out and I'm looking at it and I'm saying, well, this is great. And luckily I took pictures of the whole thing, and I don't have it all here for you tonight, but it's on the Fabulous Tree slideshow. We took the burlap off. We found 4 inches of soil on top of the ball under the burlap that had to be removed to get down to the true top of the ball, to the flare. It was planted, and it today is a beautiful little dwarf Japanese maple. Murasaki Kiyohime. It has a Japanese name only. I'm sorry it doesn't have a common name, but it's one of my favorites. If you look at my website, dirtdoctor.com, and go into the library to Japanese maples, I have all my Japanese maples there, named and explained and everything. I just added about 8 more to it. And that's Nellie's buddy Tater. That's the little jerk Tater. He's actually pretty good. He's okay. He's our old guy. He's about 13, doing well. By the way, one of the things I've discovered on dog health, if you don't do this, I got a tip for you. Give them a whole lot of glucosamine every day. I'm serious. Little Tater had that disease where a hip pops out a joint, and he would scream bloody murder. It was the scariest thing. We just felt so sorry for him. It was unreal. We started giving him 2 commercial glucosamines that I literally get from a big box store, and another one that I get online that's a natural glucosamine product. It's called Super Snouts. And it smells kind of funny. It's made from some kind of snails or something. So I literally give them about 3 times as much glucosamine a day as is recommended. He hadn't had that problem in years. Runs around like a little puppy. And Nellie, same way. You're going to see this over and over again. Plants with a line like that, that's where the soil was in a balled and burlap plant that I designed and planted on a project. We eliminated 10 inches of soil under the burlap in a balled and burlap plant. And that's I've seen it on a ginkgo on a project I designed, and it was more like a foot. And there was adventitious roots coming out all along here above the flare. If you run into that planting a ginkgo or any other plant at all, and you have those roots that are just coming straight out of the side of the trunk, those are fake roots. Those are false roots. Those are adventitious roots. And you cut every one of them off. And don't worry that you're hurting anything. You're not. You're not doing anything but good for the tree. Crepe myrtles. 99% of the crepe myrtles planted today are planted way too deep in the ground. In McKinney, they got the crepe myrtle trails. You've probably seen it. It's real pretty, beautiful trees. Every one of them is this far too deep in the ground. And they have aphids and they have scale, and they spray them and they do a bunch of stuff that they don't have to do if they just expose the flares and add them at the right height. Crepe myrtle has a beautiful big flare. It turns into an apron like you see there. And that's the National Champion Pecan tree, and you get to meet it as it looked when I met it. That's me at the bottom. We consulted with the owner, and we took over 5 feet of soil off of one side of this National Champion 800-year-old tree. We took out all this rotted. If you do that like we did, you got to do it really slowly and really carefully, because you don't want to go into the good tissue. You want to just pull out the part that is dead and decayed. At the base, it had already started to try to heal itself a little. You see the callousing there, but not too much up there. But we took 5 feet off on this side, about a foot off on this side. And starting the first year after this was done, by the way, that's the air spade laying on the ground there. That's the tool that the commercial people use to expose the bases of trees that we recommend. There's about 3 different manufacturers that make similar kind of things. But today it is filled out. There's no dead tip growth like there was when we started working on the tree. It produces pecans again every year. And to give you an idea how hard this is to sell sometimes, after I got them to do this work, and I got a company, Lambert Landscape Company in Dallas, to volunteer to do the work that I specified, after the Texas Forest Department, Texas Forest Service heard about it, they came out and they took the national championship away from it. They said it wasn't the national champion anymore. And I got wind of it from the owner. And I said, what is going on? And they said, well, you know, there's a tree in Maryland that's a little bigger. It's about dead, but it's bigger. And I said, well, that's good. And then I talked to the owner, and Bill said, well, they came out, Howard, and they said that I needed to fill it back in. That I shouldn't have done that. It's a tree, it's a bottomland tree, and it doesn't need to have this done. So that's how hard it is to convince people to do this stuff. The Texas Forest Service told them to fill it back in. We're going to have to move along here, and I won't spend any time on this. Look at the fabulous tree slideshow. You'll learn all about this tree. It's the biggest tree in the world. It's a 3,000-year-old Montezuma cypress. It will grow here in Flower Mound. Beautifully, by the way. I have one in Dallas. Again, this is where you find the fabulous tree slideshow. You see it down there at the bottom. And the story about my little ginkgo, I'll just go through it really quickly. I planted it when Logan was born, my daughter, an announcer, and she has grown up with the tree. The tree is now competing for the largest ginkgo in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and it's only 40 years old because I exposed the flare so dramatically. It has become enormous, and I think there's 2 reasons. Ginkgo's the oldest tree in the world. It was around when the dinosaurs were here. And because of that, it probably needs that flare exposed more than any other tree, and the organic program. And so if you try to grow a ginkgo, most people experience ginkgos growing about 1 inch a year. Mine grows about this much a year. And it loves it. My books, Doug, my business partner, is here. If you're interested in any of my books, he's got them and a couple other things you might be interested in. The manual's the latest book. The Texas Bug Book covers the pest control thing that we talked about. Vegetable gardening book covers vegetables and fruit, and with all the organic program. And then the final thing, we have 2 online classes. One is a 15-chapter class. It teaches you everything, all the subjects that I discuss. And then the second one teaches just one subject, and that is the sick tree treatment. So my art, you can see it on my website as well. We do it and sell it to raise money to help the nonprofit, the Texas Organic Research Center. It's called organic art because I never know what I'm doing when I start. It just organically happens, and it's done on recycled material. And we do it exterior and interior art. That's the basic organic program. It's simply stop doing the stuff that doesn't work very well. Start doing the things that work wonderfully with every application. You'll have fun with it. If you spill it on yourself or your dog or whatever, it doesn't hurt anything, and it just gets better and better every year. Do we want to take any questions?
Yeah, I think we have a few minutes for questions, but we just want to make sure everybody has enough time to meet with you.
That was pretty quick, so if anybody has any, yes, sir.
How far do you know how to dig down?
That's a good question. The distance you go down to expose a flare is the same on every tree. You go down until you don't need to go any farther. We did a bur oak. We helped with a bur oak. The homeowner did it themselves. They called me on my show and they said, Howard, we got a bur oak and it has a little dead tip growth and it's kind of open up. You think it's too deep in the ground? I said, well, is it coming out of the ground straight? He said, yeah, just like a telephone pole. And I said, yeah, get the flare exposed. It'll help it. He said, can we do it ourselves? I said, yep, just do it slowly, a little bit at a time. He called me back in a couple of weeks and he said, Howard, this is Terry in Waco again. At what depth should we find the flare? 10 feet. And he was an engineer and he built a structure down in the hole, you know, and a deck for safety and the whole thing. So literally you go down until you get to the flare. And it just depends on how badly it was planted. In this case, the tree was filled on. It was the last house on a slope and they had filled on it. The only reason it was still alive is it had a lot of broken up white rock in the black soil and it breathed fairly well. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I have St. Augustine grass, and I've lived in Grapevine for about 15 years. And I've used organic, when I was in Carrollton, it worked great. But in Grapevine, it's been another story. And last year was really bad. And I used the corn gluten meal for the weed control, weed control.
Yep.
Fertilizer, I used organic fertilizer, March, June, well, actually May, and then September. And about mid-June, every year, it starts getting worse. And I mean, I water adequately, I feel.
Some diseases showing or just kind of fading out?
It's fading out. And so I have a friend that taught me how to use a piece of white paper, and I think I have cinch bugs. And it's really, it got worse and worse. He said, well, try, I used a Permagard first. I got it at Marshall Grain. And then that really didn't work, so I used cedar spray. That didn't work. That was probably late July, early August. I used Humate, and nothing worked. And I can show you pictures of my grass compared to somebody who does use Scott's. And his grass is a lot, I can show you pictures. His grass is a lot better than.
Well, St. Augustine grass has had a lot more troubles the last couple of years than I've seen since I've been in this business, and a whole lot of it, unfortunately, is related to the last 3 winters we've had. We've had 3 winters where we've had temperatures drop 50 degrees in 24 hours. And that has done incredible damage, not only killing plants in some cases, but it's just caused a lot of horticultural issues, plants growing strangely, flowering at weird times, or not flowering and when it should flower, and things like that. And I think St. Augustine is definitely in that category. People tend to baby St. Augustine too much is one thing too. They tend to water it too much. And we find that sometimes backing off helps with St. Augustine grass. If you actually did have chinch bugs, if you got down there with your hands and actually saw the chinch bugs, you can kill them with that product called spinosad soap better than with anything.
Is that spreadable or through a?
No, it's a liquid. It's a liquid deal. And I would definitely apply the azomite. That rock mineral I showed is just incredible for plants that are still in stress for whatever reason and having some issues. Bob Webster, with his contacts with his listeners and mine too, have given us feedback saying that if you've got a plant that's not performing like you like it, it's discolored, it looks a little lethargic, it's chlorotic, it's whatever, nothing makes it respond better than this azomite, broadcast pretty heavily.
Doing the spread.
Yeah, 40 to 80 pounds, really put it out there heavily and do the Garrett juice as a foliar. And by the way, when you do a foliar feeding, whether you use compost tea or fish and seaweed or the Garrett juice like I recommend, always spray the foliage and drench the soil too. If you just spray the foliage of turf or flowers or edible crops or whatever, and you don't get the same material or some other material into the soil, the roots get lazy. you actually have the roots desiccate a little bit, start dying back a little bit if you're putting all the nutrition the plant needs through the foliage. So you want to do always a little foliar feeding and a little drenching too. So if you do those kind of things, I think you'll get your turf back in good shape.
Do I apply it like by hose or?
You can put it out with a hose-in sprayer. I don't like hose-in sprayers much though, because you're depending on that inexpensive device to do it for you. And a lot of times you'll be spraying along and you'll look at it and it's not mixing and not spraying. It'd be better to get a backpack sprayer or a big pump-up sprayer, or hire a contractor, nursery, to come and spray it with a power sprayer.
Okay, and then with the azomite as well.
Azomite you put out but dry with the same fertilizer spreader you use for the
What
fertilizer.
time of the year? Should I put it down now? Or?
The best time to do any of these things is right now, today. Whatever today is. Yes, sir.
I work with hardwoods a lot. So I have hardwood sawdust. Is that compostable?
Hardwood sawdust can be a good tool, but it's not like shredded tree trimmings. It ain't got no protein in it. It's all carbon, 100% carbon. So if you add some molasses to it, if you add some green leaf tissue to it, if you add some manure, some kind of a manure product to it, it can become a very valuable tool. By itself, it'll draft nitrogen and be a problem for you. One more?
Yeah,
One more quick one, and
Yes.
then we'll take
quick
personal.
question on crepe myrtles. You said practically all of them are planted too deep. Any guess as to what would be, how far have they gone too deep?
Oh, no, some of them are this far too deep in the ground, and some of them, just a couple of inches. I think you'll find a lot of them way too deep in the ground, from 6 to 8 inches to a foot or more. What throws people is that a crepe myrtle, and a lot of other trees too, can live and look pretty healthy, and pretty good growth, pretty good flowering and everything, and be in stress and be too deep in the ground. And once you get the plant out of stress by removing the soil and exposing that flare, you can almost feel the trees breathe a sigh of relief and start doing better than they've ever done. It's amazing. Do you want to do something different?
Well, I think Doug wants us to move out to book signing.
Oh, a book
Questions
signing.
out there.
Let's go sign books, and if you have any that you want me to sign, and if you have any more questions, I can answer out there. Thanks very much for joining us tonight. It's been fun.